Well, good evening, family and friends. I am we're so delighted to see you this evening and for you to spend some time with me and our colleagues. I'm Byron Hughes. I get the awesome opportunity to serve as Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students here at the University of Tennessee. And though the year has just gotten started, I think we've got plenty of information to share with you all tonight about ways to be able to help your student find healthy community here on Rocky Top. So I'm joined by some colleagues that will be a part of tonight's panel, and our goal is to get to as many questions as we can. Just so you know, we did ask for questions to be submitted to the family engagement team ahead of time. And so because of this, we have disabled the Q&A feature to allow our session to focus on the conversation. At the end of the session, however, we will share the contact information for each office or individual representative so you can reach out if you have additional questions. So I am, and also preface by saying, internet is a little bit interesting right now. So if it is a little choppy, please bear with me, and one of my colleagues might jump if there is a problem. But we're going to jump right into allowing some of our panelists here to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Todd Cox, who will tell you who he is and the role that he serves here on Rocky Top.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Hughes. My name is Todd Cox. I'm so glad to be joining you all tonight. I am also part of the Office of the Dean of Students, where I get to oversee student advocacy. So I get to work with our Student Government Association, all the awesome things those student leaders are doing. I work with our Family Experience team and how we're creating a Tennessee family experience that is meaningful for you and your students, as well as I get to work with our outreach and our advocacy efforts as we call ourselves the place to start here at UT in the Office of the Dean of Students. We're here for your students if they don't know where to turn, or they just have a question, a concern, or anything we can provide support for. I get to work with those students and ensuring that we have a UT experience for everyone where they feel seen and heard and know that they matter and belong.
All right. Thank you so much, Todd. Next up is Haley Flavin.
Awesome. Thank you. So my name is Haley Flavin. I serve as the Assistant Director for Harm and Risk Reduction in the Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life. And so I help to support our great community, which is 27% of the undergraduate population. And also a big reason that I am here tonight is that I serve as the chair for the hazing prevention team, which is based out of the Division of Student Life and is a collaborative group made up of staff and faculty and students from across campus. And so that's kind of my dual role as to why I'm here tonight.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us, Haley. And last but not least, Amy Bybee.
Sure. Thank you. And I appreciate you guys asking me to come on tonight. Unlike these people who are part of the university, I'm involved in a very different way. And just like you all on the call tonight, I'm a parent of a junior student there on Rocky Top who has found his place, but with a little bit of time. And we can definitely chat more about that. But I'm honored to have been asked to participate because I think as parents, we obviously have a vested interest in making it a successful endeavor, and appreciate your all's interaction and helping out the parents.
All right, thanks so much, Amy, for joining us. And you're certainly a key part of what we get to do here at the University of Tennessee and supporting your student and our efforts. Well, as I indicated, tonight's topic is a discussion about how to help our students, your student really particularly, find healthy community here. And one of the reasons why this is a very important topic for us is because there's a lot of things that are happening in our world. And one of the things that we know to be very true is that our students and people around the world are really experiencing loneliness at high levels. And so in those times where you're experiencing loneliness, it is often that you will typically find your way towards whatever group is going to connect you with friendship and the opportunity to belong. And so my hope is that we can talk a little bit tonight about what are ways in which we can help you and your student kind of traverse that journey to be able to make sure that you're getting out of this a thriving, healthy experience that really does bring out the very best of who you are and who your student is certainly here in our community. So we're going to start with Todd, if Todd's ready. Todd, if you could share a little bit about how a student would go about finding organizations where the people are the right fit for them, and then what should they do in an attempt to know about a group's membership?
Yeah, so great question to start off with. Finding community like Dean Hughes said, it's so important, especially to school on the University of Tennessee, even though there's so many people, such a big school, it's important to find those opportunities to help to make the school feel a little smaller and kind of find who that core group is, that has shared interests, has shared goals with you, that you can be alongside of both in and out of the classroom. And so we try here to provide a lot of opportunities for that. And so one way is students can actually do it just from their smartphone or one of their devices through something we call VolLink. So they are using VolLink for all sorts of things. This is how they're signing into events. This is how they're doing some surveys after events that they're going to. But it also has the opportunity to search for clubs and organizations. And it's a really cool tool, one that I think we're really lucky to have here at the University of Tennessee, where students can just go in and start searching for a student organization of their interest. We have over 700 registered here on campus. There's all sorts of things to choose from, but VolLink gives them opportunity to even just kind of start the top and start narrowing down just based on some categories. So are they looking for something that's academic that may go alongside with what they're studying? Are they looking for something faith-based? Are they looking for something that's of a certain interest? Maybe it's a club sport. They can go ahead and search for those and look through those. There's also a search bar that you can pretty much operate like Google, and that you can search for keywords. So if you know you're looking for something in a certain faith-based group, you have a certain interest. If you're looking for something, we have a lot that do different esports activities. If there's a certain game you're wanting to play or compete with, we have the opportunity for you to go ahead and search. And once you click on that, it's going to give you rosters. It's going to show you constitutions, membership information, photos, all this great information that really can help a student kind of go ahead and identify, yeah, this may be a really good fit for me, or this isn't quite what I'm looking for. I'm going to keep searching. And they can do all of that right there. And then also the best part, I think, is there's a button right there where you can email a member and just say, hey, I'm interested. Can you tell me more? Another recommendation is our students are everywhere on campus. That's one of the parts of the University of Tennessee is my favorite, is just how there's always something going on, and especially on Ped Walkway. So when I'm talking with students and they're saying, hey, I'm looking to get plugged in and just kind of see who's out there, I always encourage them, hey, go take a walk up and down Ped Walkway. You're probably going to see at any given time during the middle of the day in the semester, 20, 30 organizations out there on Sundays just tabling. They're hanging out. They're giving away stuff. They have an activity going. They're doing a fundraiser. But it's a great opportunity just to meet members. And you may see a table or a group out there that piques your interest. You may think, hey, y'all, that's pretty cool. Can you tell me more? Can I get plugged in? And all it took was just walking up and down Ped Walkway, which is right in the middle of campus here at the University of Tennessee. And then the other one, the kind of third recommendation I'd give is just, keep your eyes out for bulletin boards. We have a big one here in the student union. If your student's ever interested in saying, hey, I just kind of want to see what's out there, what events are coming up. On the first floor of the student union, we have a huge board that we let students post anything they want there to advertise events or things going on both on campus and off campus. So maybe your student is saying, hey, I really want to get involved in a community organization as well here on campus. Students are involved in that, can post it there. That's a great place to look and get information. So there's so many different ways. And of course, as always, they can connect with a staff member, whether it's one of us on this call or their academic advisor. All they have to just say is, hey, I'm looking to get involved. What do you know that's out there? And we can also help guide them through that. But we try to provide as many opportunities as we can here to give them the opportunity to get involved in whatever may interest them.
Thanks, Todd. So I'm wondering, through all those steps, right, of being able to figure out where these organizations are, where they exist on campus, when you think about the people, like how might a student really figure out, hey, I've met this organization at the involvement fair or someplace on Ped Walkway, and now I'm trying to figure out, are these my people? Like, what are some of those things that, a student might want to do to figure out, are they my people, right? The organization might be great for them, but are the people going to be a good fit for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really, attend some of those initial events and have those conversations. I think it's, what we encourage students is, do more than just attend the event. Like you said, you want to learn about the culture, you want to learn about the people. So as they're plugging in, if it's a group, don't just go, sit in the back row of a meeting and then head out as soon as it's done. Unless you just know from that, you're like, this isn't for me. But, have a conversation, try to connect, especially with someone who's in a leadership position. Pretty much all of these student organizations, they'll have some type of maybe a president, they may have a chairperson, or they'll have people that hold executive positions. I always recommend students, just reach out to them via email. This is a great time, get coffee with them, kind of learn, and just we encourage students, ask those questions. There's really not a question that's off the table, because you want to find if this is your fit. So if there's something that's important to a student, we encourage you to ask that. But definitely ask the leaders of that organization, because that's usually, especially those that are so deeply involved in it, who have given so much of their time and continue to give their time to it, you're probably going to get a really good feel for that organization. And then the other piece of it is, try to get something a couple times. If after the first time you're like, yeah, I'm still still trying to weigh this out, figure it out. I went to maybe a social event they have. Maybe they have a volunteer opportunity coming up. Go participate in that too and kind of see what does this organization look like in action, more than just maybe a social or a meeting. So you kind of see two different facets of this organization, because usually by then you'll have met a few people, you've kind of seen what the organization is about, you've seen what the culture is, that hopefully you have a pretty good understanding at that point of, yeah, I can see myself as part of this. I really want to dive deeper into this, or this may not be the community for me. I may be looking for something a little different.
Thanks, Todd. I think that's great, because I think one of the things that our students tend to struggle with sometimes is, I found the organization, but I'm not really sure the relationships are going to form the way that they should. And what we know is that you got to have a relationship before you can even get to being part of a club organization and do, all the things that come along with that particular group. Amy, I'll give the next question to you, because it's kind of on that same vein, right? But, from the parent side of this that you've been able to experience with your student, if a student is struggling to get involved and find community on campus, how do you think that their family can support and encourage them?
Sure. And that's a great question, Byron. And I will tell you, over the years, my son now a junior, how I might encourage that looks very different. But I think the first thing I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help. As parents, we're sending our kids out there. We want them to be accountable. We want them to sprout their wings and fly. But sometimes they still need that reinforcement and encouragement to make sure that they know they're navigating what they need to do. So don't be afraid to ask for help. I think one of the biggest things, to kind of tag on what Todd was just saying too, also, as they're really finding their people, again, I use my son who's a junior, he did go Greek, to Haley's point, and got involved. But I will tell you, the first 2 or 3 weeks after receiving his bid, he wasn't sure if that was his people. And so also encourage them to stay the course, encourage them to hang in there and find their people. Because I think as we're sitting on this call as adults, we work with people we love, and then we work with people we work with, and so you will find your people. So encourage them, stay the course, ask for help, and then get plugged in. For everyone that's on this call, you're doing the first thing. You're getting involved in the Office of Family Engagement. You're taking an active role. You're wanting to make a difference. They send out phenomenal emails of activities that are coming up. Maybe it's Milkshake Mondays. Maybe it's whatever's going on campus. I would also encourage you, if you haven't already, whatever major your child is, it's very likely that there are emails coming out from their school. I know, like, my son is in a business school, and I get Haslam headlines, and there's all kinds of things in there, and it's got great things. In the first year, I would send a screenshot and just say, hey, didn't know if you saw they're having a career fair this day, or hey, be sure and check out such and such. And I usually got, Mom, I'm on it. I know that. But just, to keep them entrenched, because again, they're going from a very different experience being in high school, where they're at the school all day, every day, to a very independent living, for lack of a better term, that nobody's really checking of, are you checking in? Are you doing those things? And for those kids that aren't real outgoing, it might be an easy opportunity just to kind of slide back in and kind of mix in with the others. So I think that would be the biggest thing. Ask for help, stay engaged, stay involved, but also keep an open mind. Again, I think as parents, we tend to maybe think or feel what we think our kids should or might enjoy. And they might come to us and have found an organization that they love. And we want to drop our jaw and think, seriously, but keep in mind that all of them are very different, and that we've got to really have an open mind and support that just because we think something might have been a perfect fit for them, it's not a perfect fit. So I think it's, keeping an open mind, ask for help, and then use the resource. Because I will tell you guys, and this is obviously, University of Tennessee is a large school with many, many students, but I have a lot of parents who have kids in other schools, and I can tell you the resources that we have on Rocky Top far exceed some of the resources even in smaller schools. But it's all about making a big school feel little, and that's how you can create that community.
I want to add on real quick too to what Amy was talking about. And kind of thinking about back when I first moved into my undergrad. It was the first time I had ever moved from the house I grew up in. And so that community was especially tough, because I was living with someone who I had never met until that move in. And so it's thinking about, how do I even find community starting in the place where I'm sleeping each night and where I'm now calling home, maybe the first time I'm calling a new home. And so I think that's another great opportunity to plug in, and that family members can provide support, encourage, and hey, how are you connecting with the folks who are living next door to you or down the hall from you? You're in the same building. And so we're lucky to have a great group called the United Residence Hall Council, or URHC. Is how they're commonly referenced. And that's a group of student leaders within our residence halls that work alongside residence assistants. They work alongside the housing staff to put on these programming and connection opportunities so we can start that right there in their residence halls. So I think when you think of family members, I talked about going to Ped Walkway or kind of exploring these groups, but it can also just start right there in their residence halls and really give a big opportunity for students to help make that big campus feel smaller, because they can even start it right there where they're living at and kind of what they're feeling is their safe space right there. So also highly encourage that that plugging in could be an event that you're doing with your residence hall or with your floor, or getting just to know your RA, even to kind of explore and have those conversations of, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Like, I would love to tell you some feedback about this, or I heard this event was going on. It'd be so cool if we could do that on our floor. That even, all the things Amy talked about, those can start right there in the residence hall on their floor. They don't even have to go out of there to start finding that community to help making this campus feel a little bit smaller and a little more intimate for themselves.
No, thanks, Todd. That's great. I think, one of the things I loved about what Amy shared was that this idea of being able to give your student the space to be able to figure out the thing that might be for them. I think sometimes our families may feel like, well, I've known them for the past 18, 19, 20 years, however long, right? And I know exactly the things that they want to do and be involved in. And so you do the work involving yourself of finding all these organizations, only to not realize that it's actually probably not what your student is looking for, because life has transitioned for them in many ways. So being able to, of course, give them that space is really, really important. And then, of course, leaning into the resources, the way that Todd has mentioned, and all these wonderful people that are here is really, really great. So thanks, y'all, for your thoughts there about that. Haley, this next question is for you. And really, tell us, what does a healthy involvement experience look like? Now, I want to preface this, Haley, with, we know that you were rooted within sorority and fraternity life, but you also had a history, I think, in working in student conduct as well. So you've been able to see kind of the broad type of experience that our students might have about when they don't make the right type of connection to the community. So tell us a little bit about, what have you been able to see from your experience, is a good ideal outcome of healthy involvement?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I think it builds off so much of what Todd and Amy have already shared in terms of seeking out what that involvement looks like and really assessing what is the right fit for me. I think it begins with whether you are in the student union and you walk into the Center for Student Engagement and explore what opportunities exist there, connecting with student leaders in types of organizations, or there's ambassadors associated with different organizations that can really help you understand what are the values of this organization that I'm seeking out? Who are the people that are in this place that I may connect with or further my college experience with? Because ultimately we want this involvement experience to be something where they find challenge for themselves and really help them develop during their time in college, and also find support within there. So I think it starts in some of the research and the seeking out of what they want to get out of that experience. And then I think once you're in the organization, it's really determining, so I did all my research and we really align with the values of who I am and what this organization stands for. Now, as you get involved, is what you were sold at the beginning something that really is still reinforced in that experience? And so we want students to feel supported and feel like they matter and belong in those places. And so making sure that that's continuously encouraged in that experience is great. I think too, also knowing that all of our organizations have some type of office or advisor or somebody that's supporting them as well. And so if your student comes to you and is like, I'm not sure if this is the right fit for me anymore, it doesn't feel right, going and encouraging them to seek out that staff member, that adult in that space that can maybe provide them some guidance too, and making sure that they feel supported. So ultimately, within this experience, we want them to, one, be a student first, of course, because that's ultimately why they're here. And it should never be that this involvement experience is taking away from that. In addition to, also my lights are turning out. I apologize. I'll turn them back on in a second. But also making sure that they are finding value in this experience and they're not just forcing themselves into something that's not the right fit. Todd shared that we have over 700 student organizations here. And so if something's not the right fit, it's okay to say, okay, let me go and explore what this other option is. And so I think it's that and finding that support system within the organization. Not everybody has to be your student's best friend. And at the same time, they should be people that they feel are like-minded and can challenge them and help them grow during their college experience. So helping them feel supported, healthy, safe, and prioritizing their academics as always.
Thanks, Haley. I often think, that comment you made about, hey, this may not be for me, and so let me leave and do something different. That was my experience as a student, and ironically, it happened within fraternity story life, where I was part of an organization that was pledging that organization and said, this isn't really for me, and I was willing to walk away from it and found something certainly a whole lot better. But that obviously takes a lot of courage and something sometimes that you can't always do by yourself. But that really is really key, right? Like there are too many things to do here on Rocky Top for you to have to stay with something that may not necessarily be the right fit for you, or not good for your overall well-being. So, Amy, this next question is for you. One of the reasons why we know you best here is because, as you said, you got a very involved student. Luke has spent a lot of time with a lot of people that are on this panel tonight, and many others as well. You talked a little bit about his experience of being involved already, but I wonder if you could dive a little deeper into really just how you manage your involvement with that organization as well, right? So it's not just, I know Luke is doing this thing, he's doing a few different things, of course, but I know he's doing these things, but I'm finding ways to engage. Again, we also know that you're close enough to campus to be able to do that, but like, what are the ways in which you stay really connected and dialed into the organizational experiences that he's having?
Sure. And to your point, yes, I do live locally, meaning about 30 minutes from campus, which is wonderful and allows me to be more involved. However, I will tell you, going back to the Office of Family Engagement, there is definitely opportunities. In fact, we need ambassadors for the University of Tennessee across the country, and they set up things and have opportunities for parents to go out and speak. And so definitely encourage you to do that, because I feel very passionately about Luke's experience on Rocky Top and what a positive impact it's had for him. And so obviously I think that's of importance. But if you don't live in town, there's lots of things you can do. Once your child chooses an organization, whether it's like you said, SGA, or maybe it's a faith-based, or maybe it is Greek, or, whatever they've chosen to do, just like in high school and middle school, you can get plugged in. And I mean that by a lot of different ways. Most parents that have children at the university still want to be involved at some level. And I can tell you one of the things that was most helpful for me, and again, he pledged and in a fraternity. And so the first semester, he's like, Mom, don't do that yet. I got to be official. You can't get involved. So I had to wait till he was official. But then I tried to reach out to other parents. We have a parent Facebook page. I set up a parent group me page. And surprisingly, these parents became my friends. And we all collaborate together. If somebody's got tickets available for a game, or if some child's struggling with something, or somebody's needing a ride to New Jersey, or somebody left their keys back in Nashville when they came across the plateau, then we can get on that and kind of coordinate those efforts. And obviously our kids can do that too, but it is so nice to have that point of contact. And just like they were saying earlier, your child wants to surround themselves with people that are like-minded and have similar interests and goals. Obviously, as parents, it is very nice to have that collaboration with parents who are wishing and wanting the same thing for their children. And so it can look a lot of different ways. I mean, if you're an Instagram or whatever social media platform you use, I would encourage you, once your child finds their place, get connected. If your child doesn't know, to Todd's point, there is someone on the executive team or the leadership team that knows how to get you plugged in. And, they mentioned the app that the students can use. In full transparency, I've never used that. I have no idea how to use that. And in fact, when he was applying for college, my response was, I'm not going to do that. I've already been to college. That's your thing. So, definitely helping them, enabling them to go be accountable, be responsible, but then also taking a vested interest in what they've taken an interest in, and whether it's your time, your resources, your energy, whatever the case might be, pouring back into that organization that your child believes so much in, that you're giving back to them as well. And I will say again, kind of take it out of your mind preconceived notions on where you feel like your child's going to be, because it may or may not end up being something that you would have picked for them, but it may very well be the highlight of their lives, and quite honestly, what makes a huge difference in their college career.
That's really great, Amy. I appreciate the comment about, follow the social media and really dive into the community. And it's just the best way to be able to get connected. And, whether you are close to Knoxville or far away from Knoxville, whatever your opportunity is to be able to travel the campus when you can get here and meet their friends and who's in the organizations, excuse me, you really do start to get the feel of who are these people and where is my student really spending a lot of their time. The other thing that I think it allows you to pick up on is if something unhealthy is happening. And so, Haley, we, as one of the chair of our hazing prevention team, I know that you spend a lot of time with colleagues across our campus talking about really how do we have a hazing-free experience here at the University of Tennessee. Wow. It may be helpful for maybe parents to hear a little bit about what are signs of someone that is experiencing hazing? What might they be able to pick up on in their interactions with them, either at home or when they're down here on Rocky Top?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that it's so important to reinforce that we want them to have a healthy experience in whatever student organization they do choose to join, whether it be some type of sport related team, whether it be a Greek organization, whether it be a faith-based, an honor society, something within the Haslam College of Business. There are so many experiences that we really want to make sure that those are healthy and safe and adding to their college experience. I think sometimes what we see, and unfortunately across college campuses, is that is not always the case. And so we know that's a concern for parents, and we want you to know that here on Rocky Top, we are really committed to reinforcing that healthy and safe experience. And myself and all of the colleagues here, along with staff and faculty on our campus, reinforce that. And so if somebody has had a negative experience in their organization, maybe it's not the right fit and they have experienced hazing, you may just notice that your student is off, that your student is not communicating as much as they may have normally. Now, in some cases, they may be just trying to do their college experience and separate themselves a little bit. But in others, it may truly be that they've become so overwhelmed with this organizational experience, or they're experiencing hazing. And so they're no longer communicating as much. Or not communicating at all with you and other people. In addition to that, if somebody may be experiencing some type of hazing behavior, they may seem emotionally drained, physically drained, mentally drained, and that they have no energy to put into anything else. I think also that may show up that they're not going to class like they used to in the beginning of the academic year, or they're not enjoying time with their friends in the same way. Or maybe they have changed their mind about the enjoyment of that organization. They were super excited at first, they loved it, and now all of a sudden they seem something has switched automatically, and it's no longer something that they're excited about being in. And so I think it's really important. Those signs can be broad, and it's not always, I think there's a misconception that hazing is just physical, when in reality, it can impact people in a lot of different ways. And so if you notice that your student seems to be off or uses terminology that you're not familiar with about their organizational experience, says that they were forced into things or coerced into things, stuff like that, those are things that to you may want to be a red flag of maybe this isn't that healthy and safe experience anymore. And we can talk about a little bit about what might you do to respond to that, to make sure that you're supporting your student in the best way possible. But I don't know if anybody has anything to add to that piece before we jump into that.
Hey, Haley, I would just add one quick comment. And again, as a parent for a child that, and I think back in the day when many of us went to school, it was very different than it is now. And I can say, it was a very, very positive experience. And I always say, if your student sees something, say something. It is imperative that this information is being shared. It's being shared with adults. It's being shared with the leadership of whatever organization it is, because I can promise you, for those people that are in those roles, their goal is to make sure that their people are emotionally, physically, and mentally supported, encouraged, and then lifted up. So, if you get any vibe at all, have your student, like I said, see something, say something, because it's imperative, because that is not something that's intended to go on. And obviously the goal is for it to be a very positive experience across the board.
Great. Haley, I'm wondering, since, you all are spending a lot of time thinking about hazing culture and practices, we know hazing occurs in a continuum, and there are the really, really horrific things that could land someone in the hospital, or worse. And then there are these things that sometimes people say, yeah, well, that's just what you do. In fact, I think, Haley, I don't know if you were on, there was a webinar last week about from one of the national hazing prevention organizations, and Dr. Lori Hart was talking about, friends of hers who she went to school with. And by the way, Dr. Lori Hart is a national leader in hazing prevention work. And she said, I got friends of mine who are reaching out to me when they went to a football weekend and said, oh, look how cute, those guys look in the stands who are dressed up in shirt and ties and blazers, and it's 95 degrees. And they think, oh, that's cute. And she said, no, that's not cute. And that's actually because there's an issue that's happening there, right? But again, sometimes that lands differently for people when they think about that's not the really bad stuff. So Haley, what might you offer or share, right, about those types of hazing experiences that are probably on the lower end of that continuum, which we know sometimes can be a sign that there is something worse happening. Sometimes it could be the worst thing that's happening, but how might a parent interact with those types of situations? And Amy, if you have any perspective on that, feel free to chime in too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so much of it is, to your point, Dean Hughes, that this can really build upon each other. And so it may be that your student starts to share some of those things that are pretty minor, that they're just being required to be with the organization at all times. They're having to run errands for somebody in that student organization or team, or something on those lines that to you, you're like, okay, not a big deal. They would run errands for their friends. They would do these kind of things. But that very quickly can grow into something much more, and become really impactful for somebody. And as those things continue to grow, it's no longer something that is healthy for them to be part of. And so I think it's intervening early and understanding that those types of behaviors are not okay when they're being forced or coerced to do something that is not of their choice, regardless of the type of organization, or if they are in a different, maybe not, they're not even entering into the organization. They've been there for a while, but this behavior seems off. And so I would encourage you to have that person prioritize their well-being, your student, reach out to the leadership, to Amy's point, or reach out to their advisor or somebody like that. And then you can also provide them with resources. If you're not to a point that you're saying, I want to report this myself, encourage your student to do so. We have so many different resources that exist on our campus, whether it be student conduct and community standards, whether it be the hazing prevention team, where we have a website and email, all kinds of resources where you can report things, or 974 HELP. If your student's just struggling in general, that's a great resource for them to reach out to get some mental health support, and help redirect them to other places. So I would say, as a parent, to be able to intervene early and say, hey, that doesn't seem right that that's happening, and start to have those conversations. And then if they're not willing to report, or they want to keep it a secret or things like that, maybe it's time for you to step in and assist with that as well. And that's when reporting may be an important part of that. Like I said, Student Conduct and Community Standards is a great resource. They have online reporting, phone calls, emails, and same with hazing prevention. And those, you can remain anonymous. And so if you're really concerned that you wouldn't want your student to know that you're doing this, they do everything in their power in student conduct to protect somebody's identity in that process, that is reporting information. And so know that you would be doing the right thing to not only protect your student, but the students around them from this becoming something that changes the trajectory of their time in college, which we would never want to see. And so I think knowing the resources, which we constantly have shared, as well as just reaching out to other people to seek out advice on what is healthy and what isn't.
And I'll follow up on what Haley said too. When you're thinking of yourself as a family member, we like Haley said, we have so many resources on this campus and so many teams that are dedicated to ensuring that this is a meaningful volunteer experience, but that everyone can have that experience that is meaningful and not harmful. We also, as a family engagement team, we're also here to serve as advocates as well, on behalf of families and alongside families as they're navigating. So if you're in a situation and you're kind of at that point of, I just don't know where to turn, or I don't know who I need to talk to, or I don't know if this is anything, I have questions. You can also just send an email to family@utk.edu, as simple as that. That goes directly to our family engagement team. And that's just another resource on top of the many that Haley listed that, if it's one that we can be the redirect, if it is something that Haley and the hazing prevention team needs to discuss with, or we need to deal with student conduct or community standards, or if it's just you have questions at first about things, or you're not sure, this is your first student going through this. We are here to help provide that and walk alongside you with that. So on top of all those other resources, know that here in the Office of the Dean of Students, and specifically the Office of Family Engagement, we're here to work with you and help you kind of walk alongside that so you don't feel alone in it either.
Hey, and Todd, as a parent, just want to chime in there on your point, the email to follow up. I will tell you there was a scenario last year, totally unrelated to my child, but a situation where another student was needing some resources, kind of worried about some things going on there at school. Again, I didn't know where to turn, but I did send an email to the office. It was addressed, people took care of it, and I have no idea the appropriate resources that then intervened. But as a parent, I didn't know where to go, but I knew there was a student in need, and the office took it from there. So, I mean, if all else fails, make sure you got that one email.
Yeah, that's really true, because I think so often, when students are experiencing problems like this, and again, and please know that when we talk about hazing related behavior, we're not just talking about one segment of our community. It is happening across, and that's naturally what we see. It could be the Greek organization, it could even be the professional Greek organization, it could be the chess club. It can happen in so many different places. And we'll talk a little bit about what can lead to that type of environment. But to know that if your student is experiencing that, truly they're probably in a lonely space because there might be other people around who think it's okay. And that could be not only the members that are the active members that are doing it, but also the new members, the rookie members, right, who are also going through it, who might feel like this feels like a good thing. Your student might be experiencing in a lonely way. So to know that there are people here who want to be helpful to you and journey with you through it. And we have many ways to be able to support you. But Haley, I'm wondering if maybe you could also kind of talk a little bit about what are some of the conditions that will make an organization's environment right for hazing, right? Like, what are some of those things, again, as a parent is trying to figure out, I don't think this thing could be happening, but maybe they might sense something. And, again, the student may not come out and directly say it, but there are just some conditions that maybe their student might be describing that might be, I think, a bit of a yellow flag, we'll say, even a yellow flag, right? Or potentially a red flag as well, that this could be a problematic environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that may be a predictor in those situations that something seems off. And we, back in 2018, saw some research, and our campus also helped with some of that research to show that a lot of students don't recognize that something would be considered hazing behavior. I think a lot of that is because they're trying to find their home. They're trying to fit in, and they feel like I need to go through these things in order to reach that. And so know that they may not initially recognize that. And so I think some of the things that you can kind of look for as they describe what their experiences are they really tired? Are they not getting to sleep because of all the things that they have to do all the time, in terms of, to go back to asking somebody to run errands for somebody, asking them to go do something, ask them to do something related to their class for them. So if they're seeming like they're sleep deprived or not sleeping, that's one of those first indicators that maybe something isn't going right, and that they're so focused in on this organization that they can't talk about anything else. This is just kind of the center of their lives. They have to be there all the time with the other students, and that this is something that they have to give their whole being for, leaving them to not have the opportunity to complete the things that they love. And so you may notice that they're starting to not go to the gym as much, if that's something that they always were focused in on doing before. They're not going to hang out with their high school friends who were a big part of their life when they came to the college campus. a giant shift in their personality or their experience can be kind of an early indicator that something might be off there. I think also just thinking about are the people that they're surrounding themselves with, the way they're describing their friends, people that they normally would align with in terms of their values and the things that they enjoy doing, or is it something completely different? And they're describing these people as maybe not their peers, but their superiors and people that are instructing them to do certain things or require certain things of them. And so I think all of those things, as you're thinking about, are they finding a place where they're finding that sense of belonging and coming together and getting a benefit out of it? Or is there some early indicators that they're feeling stressed about the situation, it's not the right fit, or they're having to earn their membership within that organization? Those may be some of the things you see initially.
Appreciate that, Haley. I think that's the real key factor, right, for a hazing culture is power dynamic. There's a really, really strong emphasis over there is a group of people that have power over another group of people. That's usually a fast indicator that there is probably something unhealthy about that experience. And if left unchecked, we know certainly from the work, the time we spent with this work, is that actually evolves or devolves, I should say, into something a whole lot worse that you cannot really do anything about or change the culture around. So thanks, Haley, for sharing that. I think that's really important to know. And families, I hope you know that part of us giving you this information is because we really do want you to be able to know. And the University of Tennessee has made a big commitment to being able to be, again, committed to a hazing-free type of culture. And that's a comprehensive approach that we do not only within the folks within the sorority and fraternity life, but also rec sports, our Center for Student Engagement, our ROTC program, athletics is also part of that consortium as well. And that's really just part of the work that we can do here to be able to make sure that no student is having to experience something of this nature, even on the smallest of levels. Friends, I'm wondering, and any of you all can chime in here, what your thoughts might be. So, if a student has engaged in negative culture and they have made that decision to leave, right? They've decided this isn't for me anymore. Where should they start? Where do they start then? I mean, do they jump back in and evolve link and find another group quickly? Do they try to go through some self-reflection? Who might they talk to really say, okay, what's my next step really to have a healthy involvement experience here that will do many things for me and my success and well-being? And upside, you're good.
I'll go for it. I'm muted. You caught me. No, I think I think that's an important time of connecting with the resources we have on campus. And so I think for our recommendation, we take that time to self-reflect. I mean, it's, take the time to care for yourself. And that care may look like connecting with our student counseling center to just kind of talk through what that experience was and talk through how that student is feeling. And so we have a great student counseling center that students can go to. They can be referred to other services if need be. They can talk to licensed counselors here on campus. It's not something they have to go elsewhere to do. And so would recommend, those resources. I think in that self-reflection, that's something they can come talk to us in the Office of the Dean of Students. I think with Haley's staff and knowing them, even if they were leaving an organization, I don't see Haley and her staff saying, yep, nope, don't come talk to us anymore. We don't want to talk to you left, but hey, what was the reason? What happened there? Because I think that'll guide then what's that next organization? Was it not a fit because of values? Was it not a fit because of the focus? Was it not a fit because of the culture, whether that's cultural issues in it, or it's just not a culture that meshed with that student, especially as they're growing and developing over these years, interests change, goals change. And so I think it's that self-reflection, but just having those trusted folks on campus that they can talk to, whether that's us in the Office of the Dean of Students, Haley's team, and family members. We'd encourage as well that sometimes for families, it's best to just be there to listen more than anything. Sometimes, especially at the beginning, the student may not be looking for the next steps right there. They may just need time to process. And so for family members, that can be the spot where you're at of, you don't have to give them answers right there on the spot and say, okay, that's great to hear here. You need to do 1, 2, 3 right now. Sometimes it's just hey, let's just give you space to process and let them go through that. And then it may be, pretty soon they're like, yeah, I'm ready to get back out there. Like, I missed that involvement, but I need that group. For some students, they may say, hey, I just need to take a semester to myself. There's not a one size fits all for that. And we would never encourage a one size fits all. We encourage hey, let's connect you to these resources. Let's make sure that you're feeling good. And then we can see what's your involvement look like, or what's this community you're looking for now at this stage of your life that we can plug you into, that you can get involved with, that's going to be beneficial and meaningful to you.
I think to that point too, Todd, we always say there's no wrong door at the University of Tennessee. And so if you do seek out, or your student seeks out somebody in the Dean of Students office, in the Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life, in 974 Help and Care and Resilience, counseling, whatever that may be, those are folks that want to see your student be successful. And so we're happy to sit down with them and say, okay, what are you looking for in organizational experience? If that's something that they're wanting to get back involved in, and really help guide them and connect them with folks on campus that might be that right fit, because we don't want them to see them have one negative experience and then find no place to call home moving forward. And so know that we will connect them with resources regardless of which person they reach out to first, because we want to be committed to your student success here at Tennessee.
Hey, and Haley, I would just add one quick comment again, as a parent, if I've not reinforced it enough, keep an open mind, and really judgment free, because just because they've identified it's not for them, it's really, to Todd's point, sometimes they just want us to listen. And so it's, they're not looking for I approve, I disapprove, but rather keep an open mind and judgment free, and allow them to work through these decisions. Because like Byron said, when he first started, whatever he redirected turned out to be a beautiful thing. And sometimes we don't always know that, but best supporting them through the process.
Yeah, Amy, I think I always, have guided parents to say, to ask a couple of questions after, when your student sends you this long text message, it seems like the world is over at the University of Tennessee and they have to come home, to ask a couple of questions, right? Are you venting? And what would you like me to help you with, right? Like, those are two important questions, because if not, you generally are probably going to kind of, you will have a quick reply with what you think the solution should be. Or what you do is you just simply give us a call down here at the University of Tennessee. And, I've even been in scenarios where the parent has gotten in the car and driven down to my office, and they're there at 8 o'clock in the morning to talk to me about what's happening, only for their student to say, oh no, I didn't, it actually isn't that terrible. I'm going to be okay. Oh, you're muted, Amy.
I was going to say, I always ask the question, how can I best support you? Because they may have in their mind, and sometimes it's, I just need to vent, or I need this, or I need that. But how can I best support you, versus trying to determine how we think we can best support?
So, Amy, I'll give the next question to you. So, your son Luke came in as a first year student, again, willing to try a whole lot of things on, but clearly at one stage in his life, I'm wondering if you could share with our families, what kind of growth have you seen in Luke as a result of him jumping in and, taking on roles, being curious about new things, new relationships, new experiences? What's his growth trajectory been like, over the past 2 years?
I can definitely say many students kind of flourish in high school. My son did not. He flourished in college and kind of found his place. I will say it's also been nice to identify that he's found some organizations, some groups that he really gravitates to and has excelled in. And then there were things that he started his first year, kind of like we've talked about a lot, did not end up being his people as much, and so he's really seen that sometimes redirecting his energy and efforts into those things that he really has a passion toward. And so sometimes getting involved in a lot allows him the opportunity to see a lot, but it also, I've enjoyed watching him be able to determine, this is where I have a passion for, this is where I want to invest my time and energy. And I can tell you too, watching him, I'm obviously in a corporate America job now, but seeing him in these roles, it's been very interesting to watch him evolve, and some of the things that he has found to be stressful events and this, that, and the other is preparing them for life. I said, you'll never get hit with an interview question of, tell me about a time you made a difficult decision. That's what they're doing. And that's how they're getting their feet under them. They're identifying themselves. They're developing their character. And isn't that what we want them to do as parents, to sprout their wings, fly, and to do so much more than we've ever done, And so that it's been very interesting in the 2 years that I compare our conversations now versus what our conversations were then, and really recognizing and identifying that.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Amy. I appreciate that.
For sure.
Haley, I'm wondering, you spend a lot of your time coaching student leaders within our organizations, right? So you're seeing the students that, figured out where they needed to be and are starting to thrive there, but now they're trying to figure out, how do I go deeper and I want to excel in my leadership and grow. What are some of the ways in which, you typically are coaching students to seek leadership in these organizations so they really do get some true lifelong benefits from them?
Absolutely. And I was actually going to add on to kind of what Amy said before of I'm not a parent of these students, but I've been here for a couple of years now and have seen students from the start of joining an organization to now. And it's really incredible to see the enhancement that an organizational experience has on their college experience, because they're going to get a lot of life lessons and knowledge in the classroom. And this just further enhances who they are, what to put on their resume, how to sell themselves when they do graduate here. And I think that it is what you make of it. And so we always talk to students about, sure, the first step is joining an organization and finding your people, but how are you helping yourself grow through that experience? And so as I work with students and coach them, I'm helping them try to find what leadership opportunities or what investment in themselves makes sense for who they want to be when they graduate. And so there's opportunities across our campus, whether it be an educational program, a leadership training, a Gallup Strengths type of session to learn more about themselves, where they can really dive into who they are as a person. And that's going to take them to that next step. I think that if we are just as a staff at the university, and you also as parents, not challenging them to take on those leadership roles or things that interest them, that's not going to push them to grow once they are involved. And so I would definitely encourage in that next step, as after they've met their people and kind of found their home, what does that look like for them to push this organization forward and not only grow for themselves, but leave a legacy here at Tennessee. And so there's tons of opportunities also on VolLink and other places where you can find those involvement and leadership chances.
So, Todd, I want to circle back to something that Haley just mentioned, a point about Clifton Strengths, which I know that, you and I, and Haley, I don't know if you're teaching a first year seminar class this semester too. You may not have the time, but Todd, I know that, both of us are teaching these first year seminar classes this year. And we've spent the past couple of weeks talking with first year students about Clifton Strengths. So, to our families that are watching, they certainly have heard about Clifton Strengths from both, your team as well as from our Division of Student Success and others. But how might that be, or what's special about that tool, right, for helping a student find their way to the right type of organizational experience? How can Clifton Strengths really be part of that process for them?
Yeah, Clifton Strengths applies in so many ways, and very timely because I actually just came from my FYS class before logging on here. So I'm already in my Clifton Strengths mind. So great timing. It's, we talk a lot about Clifton Strengths here on campus about how it applies professionally. And I think a lot about career and classroom success, but there's so many personal implications too. And it can be applied in so many ways to extracurricular. I think it's when we're talking with students, it's about how are you leveraging your strengths, even in your personal life or in what your goals are personally. And so I think it's when we're thinking about strengths, their strengths can be looked at, hey, what am I good at? And if I'm wanting to join an organization that I'm really wanting to, pour myself into, I'm really wanting to give into and kind of set a legacy in there, or I want to be able to use these strengths in a place that I can plug in, I can make an impact, and more that I feel connect best, look for groups that kind of focus in on those. So I know for myself, I'm very high in my influencing domain. I'm very much a people person. And so for me, for organizations, if I'm going to leverage those, look for that, I'm going to be part of something that's social, or I want to be part of something where I can connect and be in a wider net of folks to just kind of build those connections and have those interactions with people I may not on a different time. If someone who's potentially more strategic, or they might lean in heavily in their strategic thinking, they might look for those opportunities of, hey, how can I flourish in that? Whether it's giving to an organization in a way of this kind of strategic thinking, or something that is very honed in on other folks who would find themselves strategic and focus in on ways to put pieces together. I think it's really, you kind of can use those as a guide of, hey, I know I want to find a community, but I'm not sure what. Let me think about what I'm good at. What am I already just innately have talents in that I can either then just bring to a group if I'm wanting to make an impact, or if I'm just wanting to plug in, find folks who may have similar strengths or may kind of see what's before them in a similar fashion. Clifton Strengths, it's more than just career, it's more than a classroom. It can be extracurricular, and it can be a great guide for these students as they're looking to find that community.
Hey, Todd, I just have one quick comment as a parent, again, for Clifton Strengths. If you've not had that conversation with your student, ask them what their strengths are. It's very interesting because I think as a parent, it allows us to kind of know their hot buttons and what's going to resonate with them, and allows us to tailor our parenting style to what may or may not resonate with them. So if you've not had that conversation, it's very interesting to get their feedback on what their top strengths were.
Absolutely. And we always encourage families too, if you're really interested, take the assessment as well. It really can open up for some unique conversations between you and your students, not just, Amy brings up the great point, ask your student about it. A lot of our students get really excited about it, especially when they start seeing it and they're able to say like, oh, wow, that was that strength coming out. Like I am good at that, or I see this, I use this every day. But it's also neat too, when you take it as well and you're like, well, here's mine. Like, let's talk about it. Like how we interact. What are our dynamics? Here's where I leverage mine. I think it just provides a new opportunity for this kind of new season of life that your student is in to really kind of embrace on what they're hearing about a lot here on campus that you can even apply as well and see. And shameless plug, it's just a great assessment. And so, great, always recommend people to take it. But just another opportunity, Amy's spot on. Talking to your students about strengths can really create some really cool conversations between you and your student.
So if you're wondering about strengths and what we're talking about here, if you've not heard this from your student yet, strengths.utk.edu, Lindsay will share it with you in a bit here in the chat, is a great place to be able to start. That is our Clifton Strengths portal. The University of Tennessee is a Gallup campus, and so we have a very special partnership with the Gallup organization where every single student and faculty and staff member is invited to take the Clifton Strengths assessment, to learn about their top 5, and then to really then spend their journey here thinking about how they can find themselves in places of strength, and to understand how that influences their view of the world, and how they can be more positive and have a greater sense of well-being. But that really is the dynamic tool. And as Amy mentioned, it's also a great way to be able to understand, maybe you're like, I don't know why my student has been this way for all of their life. And then you see their top 5 and you go, oh, okay. Achievers in their top 5. That's the reason why they run through everything and want to get everything done as quickly as possible and are always on the go. So it is a great tool. And I think, again, in those moments, as our panelists have shared, when your student is struggling to figure out where they should go for organizational involvement, or they have left something because it really wasn't that great and they're looking for the next thing, the self-assessment at that time to really think about how they're put together and what places will actually draw the best out of them is really, really important. And Clifton Strengths can be a great tool towards that. One other thing that I'll offer here before I give our panelists one last opportunity to share a last thought with you is, when we do think about our students that have been part of organizations over the past 4 weeks now, or 5 weeks that we've been here, and they do decide to make a change. And I do think a lot about our fraternity and sorority members, because those organizations where you've been really rooted in a group of people for a lot of time over the course of days, and then you make a decision to walk away from that. One of the things that we know our students will often experience is a sense of where are my people now? Like truly, all of my friends joined something else, and now I'm back at the residence hall, or I'm back at home off campus, and I don't really know where my people can be. That's not a moment to be in despair. That is a moment to be able to connect them with people, with some of the folks that you might see on the call tonight, to be able to reach out and say, what should they do now? But that's a really that can also be a reason why a student might decide, I'm actually going to stay put in what I'm going through, even if it's really, really bad, because I don't know where else I would go, because everyone else has actually found something to do. All right. And I don't want to be lonely back in a residence hall or at an off-campus apartment. So again, that's not a moment to be in despair. It's a moment to just reach out and see how you can get some help. Well, in our final minute, I'll ask our panelists here if there's just one last thought you have, or piece of information, or nugget or wisdom that you want to share with our families before we depart for the evening. And Amy, we can start with you.
Hey, I've said it before, but ask for help. Help is there. Encourage your student to ask for help. I can tell you guys, obviously you've got the Office of Family Engagement. If I can help as a local parent, that's kind of the running joke at my house. My son's always like, Mom, don't tell one more student they could spend the night at our house. But I honestly mean that. I sincerely mean that. If your child hasn't found their local whatever and you need a mom, I'm happy to help. But I appreciate the opportunity to give back, because truly the last 2.5 years of Luke's life have just been unbelievably impactful, and it's due to many of you guys on this call.
Thanks, Amy. Haley?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think going back to kind of what I shared in the last question is that getting involved is going to be such a benefit of your students' experience. And so I'm encouraging them to challenge themselves in seeking out those opportunities, chasing after things that align with their values, and going out of what they might be comfortable with is going to really help bring their college journey forward. So I just encourage them to do that, but then make sure that those experiences are healthy. And if they have an experience that doesn't seem like it's aligning with what they want or that it's a healthy and safe experience, use these resources we've talked about to reach out and make sure that you're getting the support that you need.
Thanks, Haley. Todd?
Yeah, so I think incredible advice by both Amy and Haley. I think I'll say, know that we here on campus, we are here for the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and we're here for the entire student experience. And so we like to say here at the Office of the Dean of Students, we're the place to start. But that goes for everyone on this call as well, of whether that's an idea and things are going fantastic and you have this new idea or you've seen something and you want to keep making it better and keep improving this volunteer experience, we're here to support in that, figure out how we can work alongside you. Or if it's the moment that you find yourself in a community or your student finds yourself in a community, they say, hey, something's going on. I need talk. I need some support. I need an advocate in my corner. We're here for that as well. So when Amy said, don't be afraid to ask for that help because we are here for that. That is for the Office of the Dean of Students. We are here to be advocates to support all to make sure students feel they matter and belong because like Haley said, it's so important and it is going to make such an impact on the experience that your student has here. But know that we're here for the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, and whatever that looks like, your student's going to have more than a few people in their corner, whether that's one of us on staff or if they just need a mom and need Amy there, then we have folks here for them to support them.
Well, thank you, Todd, and thanks to all my colleagues, Amy and Haley, for joining us tonight. Thanks to all of you families for continuing to participate in the Tennessee Family Series. And we have our contact information here on the screen for our offices and how you can route to us or have your student route to us if they have a need or have some sort of a need for a sense of connection, quite honestly. And as I often tell my team, we will do whatever it takes to support the individual success and well-being of our students. So with that, have a great evening, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you here for Fall Family Weekend. I think I plugged that right, Todd, and here in the next couple of weeks or any time during the course of the academic season here on Rocky Top. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.